Mathieu van der Poel has gone from cyclocross world champion to one of the best road racers in the world. Known for his bike handling skills, but crossing over to the road, Mathieu has also figured out how to fix another problem. In fact, it's the biggest problem any cyclist will face. The changes he made enabled him to win races like the Road World Championships, and the problem it solved is the single most important performance parameter in cycling. It's a gigantic problem, holding you back literally. And if you don't fix it, your cycling may never reach its true potential. In this video, I'm going to break down the 3 key changes you need to make to your road bike position to solve this problem. And doing so, well, it helped Mathieu win over and over again, but at a minimum, it will help you ride faster with less effort. So let me share Mathieu's secrets with you. But before I can tell you the secrets, you need to have a little knowledge of a slightly nerdy term, aerodynamic drag. Or it could all just mean nothing to you. This isn't a science class though, so let's whiz through it nice and quickly. The energy that a cyclist produces goes towards overcoming various forces, such as wind resistance, gravity, and different forms of friction. But not all cyclists have the same efficiency in overcoming aerodynamic drag. For instance, if a 70-kilogram cyclist plus their bike goes 36 kilometers an hour on a flat road, they must produce 200 watts of power. Of these 200 watts, 170 watts will serve to overcome air resistance, and the remaining 30 rolling resistance, which is tires, road friction, etc. In a different position, our 70-kilogram rider plus their bike rides 200 watts on a flat road, and this change improves their aerodynamic drag by 10%, so they'll go 37.5 kilometers an hour. Mathieu has one of the best road bike aero positions in the professional peloton, and if he took his best position, he might go 40 kilometers with those same 200 watts. Imagine him at threshold. Whoa. In order to quantify this efficiency, we use the term CDA. CDA is an abbreviation for the coefficient of aerodynamic drag. It has no units and is the result of a body's drag, size, shape, and surface texture. So to reduce CDA, the most important change is to reduce the size of your frontal area. So where do the secrets lie? They lie in minimizing the parts of your body that hit the wind first. It's important to note here that this does not mean just getting as low as possible. I spoke to aero guru Dan Bingham, and he stressed that the number one mistake he sees is people trying to get as low as possible.
Just been old wisdom really of lowest is fastest, and you look back at some of the positions like Chris Boardman, who was incredibly slammed, and many other top riders, and I think that was back in the day before skin suit technology allowed good control of boundary layers, so you could actually tolerate a higher back angle and get away with it, as it were.
Then how do you reduce your frontal area? What changes will really make a difference to your speed? There are 3 position changes that we're going to look at to transform your cycling. The basic, the necessary, and the downright impressive. Let's start with the basic. See if you can pick the most aerodynamic position. All right, this is an easy one. These 2 positions are very basic, but one is better than the other. Traditionally, cyclists have been taught that aerodynamics improve as you move through the following positions. From hands on the top of the bar, which is the least aerodynamic, hands on the hoods, which is better, but hands on the drops, the most aerodynamic. This makes sense as we see riders everywhere doing it, including the pros. So the first fix, according to this study, is that riding in the drops can reduce the required cyclist power by 4.5% over the hands-on hoods with straight arms position. Recently though, there has been a bit of a paradigm shift towards the idea that riding on the hoods is actually faster, with a couple of caveats. So if you're out on your own, either attacking or just wanting to ride as fast as possible, this is where we can talk about the second thing. To reduce your frontal area even more, you need one simple move. Well, 2 really, and it's bend and tuck your elbows. Simply by moving your elbows, you can make your aerodynamic drag completely different. It is easy to do and it's very powerful. And you can pull it out at any time on the drops, but especially on the hoods. This study concluded that gripping the hoods with horizontal forearms can reduce required power by 13.4%, but it also works on the drops, and you can reduce the required power by 7.02%. But we're just scratching the surface here. The next thing I'm going to show you is probably one of the most mind-blowing aerodynamic moves that I've seen. But before we get into that, I want to talk about one thing Matthew does that is the exact opposite of some of the most aerodynamic riders in the pro peloton. Can you spot it? Yep, he doesn't angle his brake levers in, and while there might be a slight aero gain, see here, Matthew doesn't compromise his brake lever position, so he can do things like this. And this is what makes his riding so amazing. He doesn't compromise the thing at which he is one of the best riders in the world. So he uses his skills when needed and gets into an aero position when he can. But there are still times when you want the maximum aerodynamic advantage. And this final piece solves the drag problem. To reduce your frontal area even more, there is one more move you can make. And wow, does it make a difference? It's one of the simplest position changes you will ever make, and it's one of the reasons why Matthew can save energy for explosive attacks like this. But what is it? We can call it shrugging or turtling, and the paper I referenced earlier calls it a crouched torso. And when you also move your eyes down, there are more savings to be had, somewhere in the region of 1.5% reduction in the required power. The move is hard to ride for long periods, and that's why it's so advanced. It's not impossible to learn though, but add up the gains and it's almost impossible to not get free speed. And all of these are reasons why Mathieu van der Poel is not only the best on the dirt, but also on the road, where aerodynamics count even more. And when you see him doing his thing, it's amazing. But what I love most about Matthew is being aero isn't just about the gear. It's about the small hinges that swing big doors, and that takes focus. But even mastering these position changes won't mean you'll ride faster in all situations. Like the people around Matthew would advise him, you have to start thinking about aero as one part of a larger performance puzzle. And there might even be things that you can work on first that make you faster in less time. But how do you do that? It starts by clicking this video here because you want to know what area you're weakest in and put all of your focus on that first, because it will take your effort and give you 10 times the results.